Hello, and welcome back to A Rose Within the Thorns, the place where we carefully prune back confusion and we grow clarity in our English studies. This section is focused on writing persuasive. So, this is generally made for my Year 11 class, but I'm sure that it would be able to help you if you are in other classes. So, our learning objectives today. Our learning goal is we'll be able to understand what an effective attention section does, and we'll practice writing our own opening that positions an Australian audience. Our success criteria. By the end of this, you should be able to explain the purpose of the attention section. You'll be able to identify techniques used to hook an audience. And lastly, you can draft an opening that introduces the issue and positions an audience. So, today we're digging deeper into one of the most important parts of a persuasive speech. It is the attention section. It is not called the introduction, it is not the first paragraph. Let's call it the attention section. Because in the first 40 to 60 seconds, your audience decides whether they are leaning in or mentally checking out. So, the attention section, like I mentioned, is the first 40 to 60 seconds of your speech. Its purpose is to hook the audience, to introduce the issue, to signal why it matters, and to begin positioning the audience. Notice that last one, begin positioning the audience. This is where high level speeches separate themselves from average ones. Average speeches inform, strong speeches frame. You are not simply telling your audience what the issue is, you are subtly shaping how they should think about it before you even reach your argument. This is persuasive control. So, what is not the attention? So, you should not list statistics immediately. Don't go explaining government policy in detail. Make sure it doesn't sound like an analytical essay. And you do not need to state every argument you will make. I know what you're thinking. Why? Well, the attention section is about engagement, it's not explanation. If you begin with, I will be discussing 3 reasons why, you've automatically slipped into that essay mode. Speeches are different. Speeches are spoken, they are emotional, and they are immediate. Your audience does not owe you their attention. You need to earn it. So, for the purpose of Year 11, you really need to look at that IA1 alignment. So, a strong opening demonstrates a clear perspective, an awareness of Australian context, the understanding of values and assumptions, and effective spoken language choices. So, let me translate that into practical terms. If your opening clearly positions Australians, references shared national experiences, maybe some values, attitudes, or beliefs, potentially even cultural assumptions, if it highlights a value tension such as safety versus freedom, and it sounds natural and spoken, then you're already strengthening your knowledge application, your organization and development, and your textual features criteria. This is all done before your first argument even begins. So, this is strategic writing. We need to look at several options for hooking in your audience. So, let's expand on each one. So, firstly, a scenario. You could say something like, picture a 14-year-old standing alone in a courtroom. Scenarios activate imagination. Imagination, then activates emotion. Emotion activates attention. You could also challenge an assumption. You could say something like, many Australians assume youth crime is spiraling out of control. This statement will unsettle the audience. When you challenge what people think they know, they listen more carefully. We also have an emotional appeal. So, an emotional appeal is not a dramatic exaggeration, it's humanizing the issue. You could say something like, behind every rental statistic is a family choosing between food and housing. This creates high stakes. We have our shared Australian experience. You could say when bushfires devastate regional towns, Australians rally together. We know that that shared identity builds connection, and connection in turn will build openness. And lastly, we have our rhetorical question. What would you do if safety depended on someone else's entitlement? Rhetorical questions create internal dialogue. Internal dialogue equals engagement. You don't need to use all five. You just need one powerful entry point. So, I think that this will simplify the structure of your attention nice and easily. We have our hook. We then introduce our audience and we signal why it matters. So let's stretch this out into a practical structure. So, sentence 1 to 2, you need to create tension or imagery. Sentence 3, maybe clearly introduce your issue. Sentence 4 to 5, you would explain why this matters in Australia, highlight its consequences, signal your values, and have your thesis in there as well. So, for example, for many Australians, no, let me start again. Let's go. Many Australians believe gun violence is something that happens overseas, not here. Yet recent incidents have revealed that even legally owned firearms can cause serious harm. This connects to the ACT government's proposal to limit the number of firearms licensed owners can possess. This debate matters because it forces Australians to confront a difficult question. Should community safety outweigh individual entitlement? The answer will shape how Australians feel in their own neighbourhoods. So, just in that of what I've said, notice what it does. It positions, it frames, it invites judgment without listing your arguments. I've got some sentence starters on here if you would like to have a go writing your own. So, we're now going to move into that workshop focus. This is where we're going to show that progression from a mid to a high result. So, a mid level, it's got a clear point. It is informational and it's safe. You can see we have this example here. Gun violence, gun control continues to be debated across Australia, particularly when it comes to balancing safety and individual rights. Recently, the ACT government proposed new laws to limit the number of firearms that licensed gun owners can own. This issue matters because decisions about gun ownership affect the safety of the wider community and raise questions about how Australians manage responsibility and freedom. So it's got that clear sense of why it matters. It's got a slight audience positioning, but I would say that it falls more under informational rather than persuasive. So I think this is appropriate for mid. Our high mid. So this is where we introduce value tension. It also strengthens some audience positioning. So Australia is often praised for having strong gun laws, yet recent events have reminded the public that firearms can still pose serious risks within our communities. In response, the ACT government has proposed stricter limits on the number of gun license holders can own. This debate matters because it challenges us, or Australians, to consider how much responsibility governments should take to protect public safety without unfairly restricting law abiding citizens. So we can see it has that more explicit Australian audience. It's connecting more to your audience there. There's a clearer value tension. I've signaled that safety versus freedom argument. And I think the spoken tone is strengthened in this example as well. Our next example, this is probably a higher level. So many Australians assume gun violence is a problem that happens elsewhere, not here. Yet recent incidents and police warnings have revealed an uncomfortable truth that even legally owned firearms can end up causing serious harm. This is why the ACT government's proposal to limit gun ownership matters. because it forces Australians to decide whether protecting community safety should come before individual entitlement. In this example, it's challenging assumptions immediately. The language through there is direct, which is portraying this confident spoken delivery. It's very direct. You can tell what position I'm taking in here. So remember, the difference is not longer sentences, it's courage. High-level writing confidently frames the issue. I'm going to jump back for a moment to those sentence starters, which you've probably already used. With those sentence starters, please keep in mind these are scaffolds, not scripts. Use them to get moving and then refine your work. Be specific in your language, your points, and make sure you're adding the tension. Just because they are there doesn't mean you need to use them. So, some common mistakes to avoid. So let's prune a few of these thorns. Writing an analytical introduction instead of a speech opening. Don't do it. You need to focus on the engagement rather than the explanation. Don't overload the first paragraph with statistics. If you start rambling and giving out numbers, people are going to get confused and stop listening. Think about a general math class. Don't forget to mention Australia and Australians. The Australian audience should be at the forefront. Don't delay value positioning. It's important to signal your values early. This is going to come through your thesis as well. And avoid sounding overly formal or robotic. The requirement of the speech should be something natural. In order to work this out, read your opening aloud. If it sounds like a report, revise it. If it sounds like you're speaking to Australians about something that affects them, you are closer to excellence. So, as I stated previously, you must write at least 5 sentences, but don't just write 5 sentences. Write purposeful sentences. Afterwards, ask yourself, have I created tension? Have I positioned my audience? Have I signaled my values? And have I focused on engagement rather than an explanation? If you're saying yes to all 4 of those questions, you're building something strong. If not, go back and prune and reshape. So, the attention section is not decoration. It's architecture. It determines whether your speech builds momentum or it collapses under information. So get the first 40 seconds right, and the rest of your speech stands taller. This has been A Rose Within the Thorns, where we carefully prune back confusion and grow clarity in our English studies. I hope that this was able to help you with your attention section. Until next time, make sure you are sharpening your thinking, strengthening your framing, and begin boldly. Thank you.